Hello students, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about variables, constants, and how they mix together to form numerical and algebraic expressions. Let's first take a look at some vocabulary words. The coefficient is the number in front of the variable. Coefficient will always be a number. It can be a whole number like 4, it can be a fraction, it could even be a decimal. So any type of number in front of the variable. Now, a variable, of course, is going to be any letter in the alphabet. It represents an amount we do not know yet. Operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Constant. This one is a number that we already know. Something that's not changing. Okay? 5 apples, we could just put 5, and it's not going to change. So there we go. Those are the parts. Now, the two big ideas here, numerical expressions and algebraic expressions. Very similar. Numerical expressions just contain numbers and operations. So something just like 3 plus 5, 64 divided by 8, 4 times 11 minus 3 plus 5. And if you come over to algebraic expressions, well, algebraic is just algebra as an adjective. So, of course, we are going to use our friends called variables. And x plus 3, 47 minus m, and 6 times p plus 18. So that's it. Now, if we think about some of the operations, the 4 big categories: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. There are a lot of words that can describe these. And one of the words that is predominantly used with math is the word sum. The answer when you add numbers or add variables. Subtraction uses a lot of different words, but the difference means the answer when you subtract 2 numbers. Moving on to multiplication, there's the word product. It's the answer when you multiply 2 numbers. And then finally with division, quotient. The answer when you divide 2 numbers. And also something to keep in mind, with multiplication, you can write multiplication many different ways, right? You probably started with something like 2 times 3. And then as you moved on, you probably used a dot. It still means multiply. But now you'll see things like 2 parentheses 3. That does mean 2 times 3. If you see something like 2x. Well, what does that mean? That is really like saying 2 times x. So there are a lot of different ways of writing this. If you have something like x, y, what does that mean? Anytime you have 2 variables next to each other, that also represents multiplication. This can be very tricky because if you did something like this, 2, 3, or 23, well, does that really mean 2 times 3? No, it doesn't. So with variables and numbers, a little bit different. If you have 2 variables next to each other, it means they're being multiplied. If you have 2 numbers next to each other, well, that's just your number. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, the last thing here with equal, the most commonly used word other than equal is just the same. And we'll use all of these probably at some point this school year. Some other things to take a look at are word phrases. So changing from words to an expression. Now remember, an equation is just simply adding the equal sign. Okay? If we add an equal sign, bam, now we have an equation. But we're just going to focus on these words for now. Plus, add, sum, more than, increase by. They all mean the same thing, to add. Okay? Same thing out here with subtraction. You can just see some of the words, and they will all get you the same expression. Multiplication, in this case, we have 3 times m. And as I spoke about, please remember, this can be written many different ways. Okay? So you can kind of take your pick, but they do all mean the same thing. And finally, division. A number divided by 7. Remember, when they use something like this, a number Do we know what it is? Of course not. So we have to use the variable that represents an amount we don't know. Okay, moving on. Last thing, algebraic expressions and shapes. So we are learning about algebraic expressions, and that's hopefully going to help us describe things that maybe we see in the world or other things that we need to explain to people. And that's what we're going to work on right now, and we're going to look at rectangles. So the first thing we want to understand is the area of a rectangle. What is that? Well, it's how much space is within the rectangle. And all you have to do is multiply the length times width. You could even write it as a algebraic expression, L times W. The second thing is the idea of a perimeter, and that is the distance around. So this distance plus this distance plus this plus this. And, you can call these sides. There's a lot of different terminologies. But you can call them the four sides. But of course, the sides are different. And in that case, we're going to want to label them with variables. And length, and width. In this case, to find the distance around, we are just simply going to add this length plus this length, or 2L, plus this width, or 2W. And the algebraic expression is giving you a simple way of summarizing both the area and perimeter. Now, something else that maybe you haven't learned about yet, but the idea of finding the length of a diagonal line. Well, these are the reasons why we understand and study algebraic expressions, so that we can figure out new ideas. And someone figured out that if you multiply the length 2 times, or square the length, and then you add it to squaring the width, and then you take the square root, well, guess what? That will give you the length of the diagonal. Length of the, I'll just put D. Length of the D, length of the diagonal. So there you go. That's the reason why we are understanding and learning about algebraic expressions.